Hi, I'm Paula Johnson. I've been a member of St. John's since the early 80s. And I came here because of all the churches I went to. They liked me best. Even in my dirty jeans and sweater from spending the night with friends. And that was just okay. And so here I am, 47 years later. And since Disability Awareness Sunday is coming up, I'm going to tell you a little of my life story and how I got here. When I was 20, I fell off a bicycle in Fairbanks. This is before bike helmets, so I wasn't wearing one. I hit my head really hard and ended up in a coma for about 10 days, having surgery and being paralyzed on my left side and epileptic. I'm still paralyzed on my left side, some, not entirely. I still have epilepsy, but it's super well controlled, so it's not a problem, for me at least. And I was mute and had to learn to walk, talk, read, and write again. And I'm pretty good at those things, but not perfect, but that's life. And the most important thing to know about disabled people or different people is that we're people first. And that being disabled doesn't mean I can't do anything. It means I do some things differently. Like I drive a car that I can drive with just my right hand, but hit the horn, the turn signals, the phone pickup, and the windshield wipers, a bright light thing, all with one hand, on the steering wheel at the same time, which is tricky, but it works great. I still love to bicycle, only now I have a recumbent tricycle. And because I can't do turn signals with my left arm, which is paralyzed, I have turn signals on my bike that I can turn on with my right hand while I'm steering, braking, and changing gears, which is once again tricky. But if you work at it, you can do it. One of the things I want to talk about is because I have a beef with Christians. Not all Christians, just the Christians who stop me on the street, on the airport, in the airport, people I have never seen, never will again, and they come up to me and touch me and say, "Can I pray for you?" And the assumption is if I pray for you, since you're a bad person, you will be healed. And as if I haven't maybe prayed once or twice myself. Most of my family has. But they're special and it's going to help, I guess. And I find it real offensive. Personally, if I see somebody who has problems, I pray for them whether they know it or not. God knows and I know, and that's really all that matters. And the important thing about, so you see me on the street, you go, "She's having trouble with that door, it's icy." I'd like to help her, but what do I do? The most happy words I hear from people is like, "Can I open the door? How can I help you?" And because my left side is very weak, and when I'm using my crutch, it looks weak. The big, strong men who come to help me on the ice because it looks like I'm going to fall over, which I might, want to pull my left side and support me. And because I have no feeling on my left side, no balance, no feedback, if you do that, I will fall over. If you are the perfect gentleman or lady, walk up offer me your arm, then that is as helpful as you can get. And it really helps. The other thing that helps, and I'll ask people I don't know to do this for me if it's icy out and I'm going off curbs, is to put your foot where I can rest my crutch tip on it so when I step off the curb, I won't fall. My crutch won't move and I'll be fine. And it's really not hard. Grade schoolers can do it. And I ask them to, and they're usually super happy. Some of the other things that have been awkward for me is because I look like I need help, and I honestly do in some ways. People have trouble remembering to accept help from me. Help is a two-way street. It's as important to be a receiver as it is a giver. And if you're like me and you receive help from people all over the world that you don't even know, and you have people that you kind of know, and they feel awkward about getting help from you for financial or whatever, the important thing is I need to give. I need to be part of the human race. I need to share what I have. And I think that's true of all people, no matter what. Until COVID came, I have a couple extra bedrooms, and I often house people. Some of them come through the church, so I feel pretty safe, and some of them are people I just meet, or in my case, people in Fairbanks who have somebody in the hospital, and I live between Regional and Providence, so they just stay with me. It's free, they're not alone, and I like being able to share hospitality. It gives me company, and it gives them not being alone and on their own. And for young women who come to Anchorage to work for a summer, I know they're safe and not living in some of the really bad places in Anchorage. I'm not sure, it's awkward and hard for me to get involved. But I've been on quite a few committees, and I've gotten to know a lot of people that way. And to me, church is nice, religion is good. It's community and fellowship that keep me here. One of the things that hardly ever happens is people hardly ever ask me, Paula, will you do this? Can you do this? Because the assumption is by many people that I probably can't do this, I probably can't do that. And the kind of fun part for me is when I eventually invite people over and they walk down my hallway and they see a map of the world and all these pins in it, it just ruins their conception of, well, I don't travel. And I do travel, and I've traveled all over the world for years. It's kind of interesting when you go to a third world country where they hide the disabled and they start seeing you climbing up the hills to the Buddhist temples. It's like, wow.
A lot of different cultural expectations around.
Right, and what I'm trying to do when I do this is to change their cultural expectations of what their disabled people could do. I was fortunate in that after I got hurt, I could still get a job that would have been equal to what I would have had if I hadn't gotten hurt. And I was able to work a full 40-year career and retire, which is great.
What was your career?
I was a computer specialist.
A lot of good things.
Because part of it is, if you're curious and want to know something, ask me. If we ever get to see each other again.
I'm going to leave all your jokes in here.
You know,
Yeah.
it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I'd personally rather they asked me than to make fun of some other kid. Because I remember, like, when I was in the hospital, and when I couldn't talk, and I couldn't move, and I really didn't know why I was there because I didn't hurt. And I would lay in bed at night trying to figure out how to move my left foot. And I'd pray to God. And that night, I finally figured out how to move my left foot, which took me, it was the last part of my body to learn to move. I had to learn to move every part over again. And it was kind of a challenge. But, if I don't think it's me, I remember the day I learned to talk. I remember the day I walked through the hospital back to my room. My boyfriend pushed my wheelchair, or my mom pushed him in it, and he felt really dumb. But I walked.
That's okay. It's all good.
Because there are so many funny things that happen. There are bad things, but there are more fun things. And some of the really cool and neat things that have happened to me is I've met the nice people. And because I think people look at me, and if they aren't glad they aren't me, they present me with the best side of them. So I've never really met a mean person. I've met people who don't understand what's going on. But, people are basically really nice. And you get to see the best side of them. It's like the kid who works at Kaladi Brothers. And if I'm going out at Sagaya, he'll come behind the counter at Sagaya's Kaladi Brothers and open the doors for me. And this happens a lot. It's really nice. I hope they're true. He didn't heal me, but on the other side, the whole hospital said I was going to die that night, but I neglected to. I was fortunate. In Fairbanks, there were no neurosurgeons. They found a general surgeon who was willing to do the head surgery I needed to keep me alive. And it's that sort of thing, people reaching out to help, because they can and do. I don't think you need to be perfect again. But in my case, I was given what I need to go on and have a good life. I was truly blessed in that because it was a brain injury, there's no pain. And I think pain is really bad. The one thing I wonder about in the Bible when I think about casting out demons, I think that sometimes it's someone having epilepsy and writhing on the ground in grand mal seizure. And then just going kind of weak and limp afterwards. I have no clue what it really is. But to me, that's what it seems like.
Kind of gives you a different entry point and viewpoint of the scripture.
It does.
Since you've been there.
I mean, you approach the scripture as a woman and as not totally able-bodied person. And, kind of the neat thing is everybody's going to be in my shoes at one point or another. You will break something. You will get old, hopefully. And you will probably use crutch or cane. And you will think, as I do, thank goodness for those ADA people who fought for curb cuts, who fought for handrails, who fought for elevators, who fought so that I can enter buildings I can do things that I couldn't do if they hadn't fought for it. I had a big fight with an office I worked in to get them to put a handrail up both sides of the staircase. And it was a really big pain, a lot bigger pain than it should have been, because they did it in one day. And then get calls from the head chief of the state. He said, Paula, you kept me from falling. Your handrail was there, and I didn't fall. I've had friends who are now wearing bike helmets who said, I woke up unconscious, but I was fine because my helmet stopped me because I knew you, and so I wore a helmet. And it's that kind of stuff that I want people to do.
Accessibility for people with disabilities means accessibility for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you're very welcome to use my curb cuts and elevators.
Every time I push a cart into St. John, I'm thankful for those curb cuts.
When we did St. John building, the latest edition, I was on the building committee, and they'd talk about just having a loop to drop people off, and then they'd look at me and say, no, that won't work. And they said, well, we can't afford heated sidewalks right now. But they put in all the piping knowing that they'd get the money. And I think because I was there being visibly disabled, having ice problems, they couldn't not do it.
Yep. And now everybody who comes in can use it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want anyone to fall. I don't want the snow shovelers to fall. Because, you know, a head injury is for life. I'd say I'm glad you're here. That we need to speak up, we need to be seen, and we need to have it so that the next generation of disabled people don't have to find their own way. I know when I was like my 20s and 30s trying to find where I belonged in the world, I had a really hard time because I didn't know any of the disabled people. There weren't any around.
They were around, they just weren't out.
Right, you know. A friend of my parents had a daughter who was paraplegic from a car accident. We went camping one weekend together, which was really great. We had a lot of interesting experiences. She, in her wheelchair, would I'd go into the woods and grip firewood, put it on her wheelchair. And then the Germans across the campground from us finally gave up and got it all.
Someone helped you out a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. You were persistent, though.
Oh, sure, we could have done it.
Yeah, you totally could have. You were getting there.
But, you know, like she said, she feels most comfortable around other paraplegics. But I was next because I understood the frustrations, the pain, and how hard it is to be an adult woman who has a brain. I did Special Olympics for a long time, and I was teaching swimming and running a swimming meet for them, and I'd have all the parents come up to me, Paula, they're going to have a swim meet. I go, I know. And eventually I quit doing Special Olympics because people thought I was a participant, and there's nothing bad with that unless you're looking for a job. And it's like I almost got a t-shirt that said, I'm a girl college graduate, because I had a crew cut. And it was like, what sex is she? There are a lot of weird things that happen, and they aren't all bad.
Well, you're talking about different intersectionality, right? So there's your identity as a woman, there's the disability, there's people's perceptions on gender roles and what gender should look like, and all of these different things are coming together in your own experience.
Right.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I went from girls couldn't play basketball and sports because there was no high school sports to my senior year.
Did you play?
I did. I was terrible. But the coach said if you're a senior and you haven't participated in sports, you're on the team if you're willing to practice. And I love practice. We traveled all over the interior.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. I'm just a person. I have problems. I have strengths. And if people ask me about them, fine. I'll tell them. Stubborn, happy, and strong.
Those are good ones. I'd also add hilarious.
I'm worried about what you're going to do with this.
Well, I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut portions of it.
Yeah,
If you're okay with this, I'd love to weave it into my sermon.
you can do what you choose.
You can do it, you choose. Okay, I'll try to send it to you ahead of time if you want. If you want to preview it.
I like to know when I hear from people.
Yeah.
Like, I remember walking in one Sunday, and Paula, you were Rose's subject in her sermon. I'm going, oh gosh.
You didn't know.
I don't, it wasn't anything bad or anything. Because I feel real strongly that we need to recognize what everybody can do, old, young, whatever, and celebrate their strengths and help them with the weaknesses. And we all have them. Some people have a terrible time with computers for some reason. I don't understand, but
They can give you a call if you need help.
I taught my mom at 80 how to use one and do email successfully.
That's a feat.
Oh, I know. It's everybody who has an older mom knows what it's like. Did you get that? Did you get that? Oh, yeah, I got that.
This has been awesome.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed getting to know you more. I mean, I see you on Wednesdays, but I haven't really had a longer conversation with you before.
No, because what's been hard for me at St. John is when they got rid of all the committees, which is where I got to really know people. And they just got rid of all of them one year. Didn't tell anybody. I was on stewardship and they got rid of that. I'd done welfare, they got rid of that. It was like they didn't tell people they were not doing them anywhere. They just sort of in the dead of summer did it. Right when Jenny came and Peter was here, and they changed all the service times. To me, it felt like they're trying to get rid of the old folks. So I complained.
That's good. Let them know.
And that's when Rewind started.
Okay. So then you had a service you could go to.
Right.
Right.
Because, I was talking to Anna Andrews, and I think she was in worship or SPR, one of them. And this is how I feel. Like you're trying to get rid of me. And Aileen Feisen, I said, Paula, how's it going? She said, it's so hard on David. Because, people, as they get older, don't necessarily sleep good until right before they get up.
Right.
And if you have to get up earlier because we move slower.
Yep. And they cut the later services.
they changed them to the contemporary ones, which, you know.
Yeah. Well, now you can watch service whenever you want. Because
I do.
yeah. What time do you watch service?
I'm a 9:15. I watch the 9:15 service whenever I get to it.
Whenever you get to it. Yeah. Yep. That works out.
And I find the virtual choir clips, and I send them to my non-church friends.
Nice.
Just because they're so fun to see the music,
Yeah.
especially the light one.
Yes, that one was so much fun to do.
It was. I mean, I sent it to my atheist friend, who just loved it.
That's good. That's awesome.
I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah. Share the good news, right? In whatever form that is.
Yeah, I think the people who want to hate churches have never come here to see.
Bad experiences, places.
Oh yeah, I know. Like one friend got thrown out of choir in 8th grade, and I can understand that temptation. I did youth group for about 7 years. And I know some of those kids.
Were there some that you wanted to throw out?
No.
No.
Fortunately, it was Rose's department.
Okay.
I was just there to be friends. I'd like to see Dinner for 9 really get going again.
It's hard when everybody's socially isolated.
Well, we can't do it now, but it hasn't really gone off good for the last couple of years. And for me, the important part about being Dinner for 9 was it was obvious singles were welcome.
Right.
And that's where I got my best friends here.
Was through the Dinners for 9?
Yeah.
Who was in your group?
I did it for like 7 years.
All kinds of people.
All kinds of people. Like Clinging Peels and Cornell and Girdwood. I got 10 of the copies for the building committee. And Jimmy and Charles mostly through bells, when I played handbells.
Oh, neat.
What was fun when I was like 24, 25, and I had roommates, half the time they're male, half the time they aren't. All the little ladies of the church thought the male roommates were great.
Oh, too funny.
There was just not the judgment
Right.
that you'd expect
That's
from
good.
the church ladies.
Good. That's what
It was wonderful.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so I'm still here.
We're glad to have you here.
I'm glad.
Glad to be here.
Yep. Wish it were closer.
Closer?
I live a couple blocks from Anchor Park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I live between Anchor Park and the Unitarian Church.
Yep. You're the other side of town.
Yep.
Good. Well, this was perfect. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.